Last night, before all the votes were counted, we heard the chilling words of the President of the United States declaring himself the winner of this election. That is not how democracy works. That is not what democracy looks like. We are here today to peacefully and respectfully, and I want to repeat that, peacefully and respectfully and in a nonpartisan way, make clear that no winner will be declared until every vote is counted. I will not settle for less. Will you settle for less? No. Today we stand united and determined to protect the results and to defend our democracy. Every vote must and will be counted. Every vote. Every vote. Every vote. Every vote. Every vote. Thank you for coming, and let's get this done today because we are determined and we're going to make every vote count. Marlene?
All right. So a couple logistics. We're going to sing together, chant together. We're going to hear some important voices from our community leaders about protecting our votes. We do have some extra seating up here for anyone that needs it. And we're so grateful for our sign interpreter here for the hearing impaired and deaf. If there are any disruptions that happen to our rally here today, we will respond peacefully. We encourage you to ignore any heckling that happens. We're very grateful for a team of trained volunteer peacekeepers from many organizations who are wearing neon-colored vests and spread throughout our event. We're also grateful for the protection that our local police department and the sheriffs and the Bucks County Courthouse and administrative building are providing. We also want you to know back here under the blue tarp is our comfort and care tent. If anyone needs hand sanitizer, face mask, water, you need to wash your hands. We have a hand washing station. You need a granola bar. You need anything from our first aid kit. We have a volunteer there helping with that. We also want to pay special attention at every demonstration and protest to those who are most often targeted by hate and violence. And while we hope that there's none here, this is an important reminder for us in these times in our community and our nation. Black and Indigenous people that are here with us today or that are in this struggle with us are most often targeted. So pay attention, keep your eyes open, and offer assistance if that seems necessary. They are often those who carry the heaviest burden, not only of attacks on the street, but of their voting rights being compromised. We got your back, absolutely. We see you, we love you, and we stand with you. We also just want to let you know there's 6 different ways of exiting the courtyard when we're done. So just find a way to exit. We have an ADA exit over here near the blue tent, near the Korean War Memorial, for anyone that may need that. Signs and buttons, many of the volunteers have a sign on, or a button on, and there's signs posted that have a QR code or a bit.ly link. You can take a picture of the bit.ly link and look it up on your phone, or you can scan your QR reader, and that will take you to a petition to sign for counting every vote. That will also keep you informed of future actions that we are having to demand that the votes be counted. There are 15 similar demonstrations happening all across Pennsylvania today. We are the only state that did not call off this day of protecting the results because of how vulnerable and important this state is. Okay, I'm going to introduce Chavez Ravine, who's going to lead us in a special edition of America the Beautiful. Chavez is an internationally recognized artist and social change activist, and she is singing a revised version of America the Beautiful. This was originally written by Catherine Lee Bates in 1895, and some additional stanzas have been added by theologian Therese Winter in the year 1993. So Chavez, we are so glad that you're here today. Chavez also sang for us at the Women's March right out there on Court Street 2 years ago here in Doylestown with a couple thousand of you out on the street with us. And we're so glad that she's back here today. And please give Chavez your love and attention. And there also is a landing page, right, where people can follow the lyrics. We're going to tell you how to sing along.
So if you go to indivisiblelnh.com, there is a landing page that has the words to this revised version.
Thank you, everyone. I want to thank Marlene, who's been an ally, an inspiration, and just an all-out incredible human being. Thank you, Marlene. I want to start out by saying I took a really deep breath this morning. I took a really deep breath last night. And I want us to look around and see the connection to each human being. Just take that moment to take it all in. See the humans that you're connected with. We're all one race of humans. See the creatures you share the planet with and this land with. We are all breathing the same air. Our ancestors got us this far. And I ask you to ask yourself, what kind of ancestor will you be? Take a minute, take a deep breath. Close your eyes. How beautiful our spacious skies, our amber waves of grain, our purple mountains as they rise above the fruited plains. America, America, love's gracious gifts abound, and more we're grateful for life's bounty all around. Indigenous and immigrant, all of our beloved ones. Oh, may we never rest content until all are truly one. America, America, oh, grant that we may be a peoplehood for common good, from sea to shining sea. Every vote must count.
Wow. Thank you, Chavez. Next up, we welcome Patrice Tisdale. Patrice is a Bucks County resident and attorney by way of Jamaica. She's a member of the Bucks County NAACP and the co-lead for the NAACP's Criminal Justice and Education Committee. Patrice.
Thank you. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. This is a scripture that came to me when I started thinking about what to say this afternoon. Despite hearing these words, a feeling of gloom started setting in. A feeling of maybe I should pack up my bags and head for the beaches of Jamaica or head north to my northern home of Canada. But then there was a fighting spirit that started to rise within me. The spirit of my ancestors who came not only to this shore, but to the shores of Jamaica, the shores of other island nations in chains as enslaved people. People that were lawyers, doctors, chiefs, nurses, apothecaries, chemists, astrologers, tradesmen, etc., in their home country before they were stolen. The spirit of these ancestors that fought their way to freedom despite the threats, despite the lives taken, despite the lives stolen, despite the hopelessness that loomed ahead, they pushed and fought with their allies, like many of you are here today. They worked with their allies and demanded and won their freedom. And not only did they get their freedom, they flourished during Reconstruction. In 1867, this country finally recognized the right of black males to vote. Despite the threats and opposition against this right, they voted. 3 years later, in 1870, Huron rebels entered the United States Senate. Approximately a year later, Joseph Rainey entered the United States House of Representatives. These were 2 African Americans to serve in the U.S. Congress, and they took over seats that were formerly held by white slave owners. Joy cometh in the morning. During Reconstruction, over 2,000 African Americans held public office, from local level right through to Congress. They were able to do so through the power of voting. Joy cometh in the morning. We have come too far as a country to give up now. Yes, we still have a long path to travel, but that path has been paved by the blood of our ancestors, the blood of freedom riders, the blood of Martin Luther King, the blood of Representative John Lewis, the blood of countless others who sacrificed for us to vote and sacrificed for the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The sweat and agony and years of work of organizations like the NAACP to ensure the enforcement of the Voting Rights Act. We cannot despair because the results of this election so far does not look like what we expected. We cannot despair because we're not getting what we wanted, packaged how we wanted it. Despair breeds hopelessness. Hopelessness breeds helplessness, doom, alienation, feelings of limitedness. These are the emotions that many may want us, those of us that were out here on this lawn, those of us that have been and continue to march, those of us that spent time knocking doors, calling and speaking to voters, those of us that donated our resources for the security and safety of the greater public. They want us to despair and throw our hands up. They want us to adapt the thought that based on these early numbers, there's no sense in continuing to count the votes. But we cannot and will not allow every single vote not to be counted. We demand every single vote to be counted for Hiram rebels. We demand that every single vote be counted for Joseph Rainey. We demand that every single vote be counted for the rights of every immigrant that lives among us. We demand that every single vote be counted because that is what democracy looks like. We demand that every single vote be counted because joy cometh in the morning.
What's up, Doylestown? My name's Ryan Hartnett. I'm a senior at CB West. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a volunteer for Youth for Unity.
Hi, I'm Chloe Weintraub, they, them. I'm a sophomore at West, and I'm an organizer for Youth for Unity, and we're gonna do some chants.
All right. Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what America looks like.
This is what America looks like.
Show me what solidarity looks looks like.
This is what solidarity looks like.
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what America looks like.
This is what America looks like.
Show me what solidarity looks like.
This is what solidarity looks like. Count every vote.
Count every vote. Count every vote. Count every vote.
counts.
Every vote counts. Every vote counts.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
That's a big one. That last step. I would now like to introduce Dr. Lauren Strumfels from, she's an associate professor of history from Raritan Valley Community College. Please help me welcome her.
All right, hello everyone. First a little anecdote. So I'm from New Jersey, not originally, but I live there now, and I've always lived in the states that get ignored. Candidates stop by on their way to the places that really matter, the so-called battleground states like Pennsylvania, where the real campaigning and politicking always seems to take place. So every 2 to 4 years, I usually feel ignored, like a minor opening act to the big show. But you don't have to be in a state in play to know how essential we all are to supporting the expression of the most critical regular activity in a democracy, elections. It's clear that no one is on the sidelines in an election. No one. We are all part of what historian has called an imagined political community, whose borders are formed by the idea of America as much as the sovereign territory itself. We may not agree on how to govern, but we must agree on the process of choosing our leaders and having a say. From the first contested national election in 1796, right, the peaceful transfer of power has been a bedrock principle of American democracy. Even in the 1790s, an age of passion and inflamed political rhetoric, the young nation established the expectation of accepting election results. Every vote. George Washington responded to an anti-tax rebellion of 1794, the Whiskey Rebellion, with his concern that public order and disorder in the U.S. was making a big impression on the world, that there were people out there who were betting that the American experiment in self-government would surely fail. But it didn't, and it hasn't. There is no clear definition of the word citizen in the U.S. Constitution. And over the 232 years since ratification, we have both radically expanded and restricted those who belong in this group. With citizenship comes the right to vote. Fundamentally, seen in the 18th and early 19th centuries as a privilege, those who struggled to demand voting rights for women and people of color beginning in the 1840s have demonstrated how essential what the Constitution calls the blessings of liberty are to full recognition as members of the body politic. While our definitions of how to express and fulfill our core values have been in flux throughout history, one principle has always held true. No matter what side we are on, we accept the results of our elections as we seek to uphold the principle of one person, one vote. So I'm a historian, so I'm going to turn to some words from history in my closing here. In the summer of 1865, a committee of freedmen in South Carolina petitioned President Andrew Johnson. Within months of the war's end, they laid claim to their rights as citizens, tying the case for voting rights to the legacy of their unpaid labor. This is what they said. "This is our home. We have made these lands what they are. We have always been ready," they wrote, "to strike for liberty and humanity, yea, to fight, if need be, to preserve this glorious union. Shall not we, who are freedmen and have always been true to this union, have the same rights as are enjoyed by others?" they asked. I urge you to take these words to heart. All citizens deserve to have their ballots counted. The legitimacy, not just of our elections, but of our very democracy itself, this inspiring, surprising, durable experiment in self-government that we continue to mold in the image of freedom and justice for all. It rests in the ability of our nation to vote every 4 years in free and fair elections, and to have our votes fairly and accurately counted.
Thank you, Lauren. The next speaker, I'm going to be reading his statement. This is from our former Congressman, Jim Greenwood. Jim is a lifelong Republican. He's a friend of mine. He worked for the Bucks County Children and Youth Agency. He served as Pennsylvania's House Representative for the 143rd, then the 10th Pennsylvania Senate District, and then he served our district as our congressperson for 6 terms. And he is really sad he was not able to be here today, but he sent this statement, which I haven't read yet, and it's in all caps, so he's pretty serious about it. Statement of former Congressman Jim Greenwood regarding the process of counting ballots in Pennsylvania and across the United States, the 4th of November, 2020. There are 20 countries in the world whose citizens cannot vote for their leaders. The United States is not among them. Scores of nations like Russia and Belarus have elections that routinely are neither free nor fair. The United States is not among them. Of the world's 195 sovereign nations, Freedom House ranks our nation among just 61 who meet all 12 of its electoral process scale. This year, we conducted what may have been our most challenging national election with strict adherence to these standards. The sacred right of each American to cast his or her or their vote according to the mandates of conscience is being preserved by the dedicated and voluntary efforts of thousands of patriotic volunteers. There are checks, double checks, and triple checks to ensure that our elections are conducted honestly, and all of the evidence demonstrates that cases of voter fraud are extremely rare and very small in scope. Anyone who challenges the integrity of this election without evidence does America a grave disservice and severely wounds our nation. The fact that votes continue to be legally and accurately counted is a testament to the integrity of our processes and our faithfulness to our laws and our citizens. If dishonest individuals wanted to commit electoral fraud, they would most likely hasten the process rather than eliminate it. Americans are more partisanly divided than since the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln said that a house divided against itself cannot stand. America is still the hope of the world. Our house must stand. We owe it to our ancestors and to our children and grandchildren to keep our house standing. I implore my neighbors to resist the urge to make unfounded assertions about fraud in this year's election, and not to accept as true unfounded assertions, no matter how highly placed the source. The people have spoken. We know not yet the outcome. We know not yet the outcome. But every true American patriot is bound by duty and by honor to wait with patience for the outcome and to accept it with dignity, the most honest verdict. Thank you, Congressman Jim Greenwood, for that. Our next speaker is Congressman Patrick Murphy. The Congressman who represented Bucks County from 2007 to 2011. He is the former Undersecretary of the Army during the administration of President Obama and the co-founder of Taking the Hill Veterans PAC and the Kennedy Democrats. We are so proud and humbled and honored to have Congressman Murphy here with us today.
Good afternoon, Doylestown! Hey, listen, it's great to be here, great to be back here. I used to have an office right over there. I live in Lower Bucks County in Bristol. And I tell you, it is so honored, such an honor for me to be here with my fellow patriots. Every voice, every vote does count in our country. And if you didn't know, there's a press conference going on right down the road about 25 miles in Center City, Philadelphia right now at 3:30. Eric and Lara Trump, Pam Bondi, and President Trump's former campaign manager, Corey Ladusky, are having a press conference talking about voting irregularities because they can't stand the fact that the people have spoken. That in our country, we believe in the rule of law. That no one, no matter if you're the President of the United States or someone on the street, no one is above the law. No one is above the Constitution. And we all have our voice counted in the ballot box, and those rights and those votes will be counted in Pennsylvania and across our great nation. Patricia from the NAACP, it was an honor to hear you speak, and you mentioned John Lewis. I got an honor to serve with John Lewis. 17 years ago, I was in a place called Baghdad, Iraq, as a captain with the 82nd Airborne Division. Thank you. And of the 19 soldiers that I served with in this elite unit, one of them, who gave the ultimate sacrifice, wasn't even an American citizen yet. He could not even have that right to vote. And that's a good boo, because they should always have the right to vote. Yeah, absolutely. But 19 of my brothers never made it home. And I thought the war was wrong. I came home and I ran for Congress. I had $22 in my bank account when I ran. And when I got there and I won, I stood shoulder to shoulder with people like then Senator Barack Obama to raise the minimum wage, to write the bill that repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell, because it was against equality, about the very fabric of our being in Congress. Voted for and co-sponsored Affordable Health Care Act. And we did those things. And people got upset about the Affordable Health Care Act. And guess what? I probably lost my congressional seat, my re-election. But guess what? It's worth it. You know why it was worth it? Because Judgment Day is more important than Election Day. And Judgment Day is coming to those folks when they try to stand in the way of democracy in action, when they try to stand in the way from your right to vote, when they try to stand in the way when the people of America have spoken, and our brothers and sisters across Pennsylvania.
We have spoken.
I will say one last thing.
We miss you.
I miss you too. Thank you. I love you. You know, I will.
Come back.
I look at people across here, and I already mentioned Patricia and Chavez did a great job singing that beautiful song. But I was really taken back. I got a chance to meet, I think she's speaking to Kara White. Kara White, you're going to hear her speak. I don't want to steal her thunder, but she's at CB West, and the chanters are for CB East, CB East. So the fact that you have CB West and CB East here on the same stage, that's a good thing. That's like Democrats and Republicans. But she was telling me how this was our first election she could ever vote. Think about that.
Thank you. Yeah,
You think about these young people that are serving overseas. When I ran the Army for President Obama 4 years ago in the Pentagon, 600,000 of my brothers and sisters voted mail-in because they're deployed on our behalf. And what's going on right now, 25 miles down the road with the president's son, and his campaign manager, the former Attorney General of Florida, trying to stand in our way. We have a message, and that message is simple. That we will count every vote. That we will stand shoulder to shoulder. That we will make sure our voices are heard. They were heard yesterday, they're going to be heard today, tomorrow, and Friday. And at the end, however it pans out, we will stand by the results of that election. But all of us are confident and frankly thankful that we will have a new commander-in-chief in just a few months. Thank you. God bless America.
Count every vote. 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 Count every vote.
The people united will never be divided. The people united will never be divided. The people united will never be divided. The people united will never be divided.
Please note that I did not trip that time. So as we were sitting here listening to the Congressman speak, Fox News reports Trump campaign files lawsuit to halt vote counting in Pennsylvania, citing lack of transparency. People, this is what we're up against. This is the second lawsuit filed in the last 24 hours, and I promise you there will be more. Your job is, you showed up today, but guess what? I'm going to ask you to show up tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day. Can you do that? I know that many of you have worked really hard and you're tired. We don't get to be tired yet. So what we have to do is lean on each other for strength, for courage and inspiration. Will you help each other to do that? This is the moment that our democracy has prepared us for, and I promise you we are ready. I promise you, if we all show up. Now, I would like you to help me welcome the Reverend Angela Van of Power Bucks, which is an interfaith racial and economic justice group. Reverend Angela was a part of our planning team, and Power was a co-sponsor. So please help me welcome her here today.
Every vote counts. Every vote is sacred. Again, I'm Reverend Angela Van. I'm the Bucks County organizer for Power Interfaith. Power is an interfaith organization committed to building communities of opportunity that work for all. We represent over 50 congregations throughout southeastern and central Pennsylvania. Our message and my message to you today is that every vote and every voice is sacred. We demand respect for the sacred right that every voter in our Commonwealth must be able to cast their ballot without interference or intimidation, and to have their vote counted and included in the final election results. You see, there was a thing called the Constitution. It started with a preamble that says, "We the people of the United States." Not we, some of the people, It would have been borderline blasphemous, downright disrespectful, utterly unimaginable if we, the people of the United States, meant some people. And then it says, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice. Well, this, my friends, cannot be a perfect union of justice if there is no justice for all persons. We have a responsibility to see that all persons in our community know a just society. This is a struggle for racial equality. As faith communities, we are carrying on a long moral struggle for one person, one vote. That goes back to the country's founding in Philadelphia. What is happening today is another despicable attempt by racists to disenfranchise black and brown voters, to maintain racial domination and exploitation, to ensure domestic tranquility. To be tranquil is to be calm, but we cannot be calm if we will not be counted. No one who feels ignored or disenfranchised is happy with feeling ignored or disenfranchised. Our lives are at stake. Everyone voting, having their vote counted and voice heard is fundamental to winning the changes we need to end police abuse, funding our schools, raise wages, and protecting our planet. Our health, well-being, and lives are on the ballot. It says provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Then the capstone of the preamble, they said they ordained and established this Constitution for the United States of America. If, in fact, it was established for all of us, then let all of us be recognized as having delivered our voices. We have a responsibility to our seniors who may have mailed in their ballots and made a slight error when dating their ballots. We have a responsibility to honor the attempts of new voters who followed all the rules and are expecting to be counted. We have a responsibility to the military who just mailed in their ballots and their ballots will not be received until next week. We have a responsibility to all citizens who are only voting on new machines and with new paper ballots for the first time. Let all voices be heard and ensure domestic tranquility in our Commonwealth. Every voice, every vote is sacred. God bless you.
Thank you, Reverend Angela. I also want to make an announcement that we are going to be back here tomorrow afternoon, just peacefully demonstrating. Pay attention to your email. If you registered for this event, you will be getting news from us about future demonstrations, possibly in other parts of Bucks County, until every vote is counted. Next up, I am so pleased to welcome Kara White up here to the mic. Kara is a senior at CB East High School and one of the organizers of Youth for Unity. She's also a young person that has organized protests and demonstrations in support of Black lives here in Doylestown, and someone I'm just proud to know and work with. Kara.
Thank you. I am America. I am bound by struggles and victories. I am forever impacted by wars, kindness, and anger. I am America. I am 18 years old, barely 18 years old. But more important than all of those things, I am a voice. I am a voice for change, a voice for struggle, a voice for democracy. Thank you. Those of you who agree with me, those of you who don't, we must work together. We must cast aside our differences. We must rebuild and change. We must grow. We must learn to love one another, to take care of one another, to protect one another. This is my first vote. My first time choosing. Something I have dreamed about for years. I remember 4 years ago with my mother going to vote. I remember the way I was excited for her, knowing she would have a voice. I remember being slightly jealous, but now I have the same voice. I have the same right. I am history. I am the difference. I am the choice. We, the youth, are the difference. I don't have to stand here and tell you that this election will go down in history as one of the most divided. You already know. You already know what you have been through to get here, what your parents and their parents have been through to get here. I know what I've been through to get here. Every single vote counts. Every single voice matters. My barely 18 voice matters. Your 25-year-old voice matters. Their 50-year-old voices matter. If you are angry, if you are saddened, if you are frustrated and conflicted, I understand. I feel and have felt all of those things, and I'm waiting, biting my nails in anticipation. But nevertheless, we are America. We are the future, we are the decision, and we have all the power. I remember being 14 and watching the inauguration. I remember the realization when I came to realize I would be able to vote in the next election. What a right! So to know that kids my age don't vote, to know that they don't use their voice breaks my heart. We are given such a privilege at age 18, a privilege that cannot be bought or stolen, a privilege that gives us a choice. This year has been a roller coaster that has strapped us in and we don't know when we're getting off. So take your pain, your joy, your compassion, your anger, and we wait. We wait and bite our fingernails and hug our friends, and most of all, we hope. We hope for a better future.
Oh, we protest.
We protest too. We definitely protest. Please, if you take anything away from this, remember that a little bit of empathy goes a long way.
Oh, yeah.
And remember that hope is strength, and in the end, whoever wins, we are still living here together.
United.
We are the voice of our nation, so love thy neighbor, love thy friends, and remember that a little bit of empathy goes a long way. Thank you.
So, wow, let's hear it for Kara. It is my honor and privilege to welcome Rabbi Diana Miller of Kehilat Hanahar, the little shul by the river, to speak next. Please welcome her with me.
In the Talmud we learn, Rabbi Yitzchak teaches, a ruler is not to be appointed unless the community is first consulted. A ruler is not to be appointed unless the community is first consulted. We are here to make sure that the community, the people, elect our leaders. There is a directive in the book of Deuteronomy, Tzedek, Tzedek, Tir Dof. Justice, justice, you shall pursue. Can you say that with me? Justice, justice, you shall pursue. Democracy is strongest when everyone participates, and it suffers when citizens are shut out of the democratic process. Democracy is strongest and only works when every vote counts. Say it with me. Every vote counts. We were talking before about hope. Kara was talking about hope and how important hope is. Guess what? Action also gives rise to hope. So we continue to do whatever it takes to build hope through the actions that we're doing, gathering together. We are heartened when we come together to participate in the pursuit of justice. We recognize how bitterly divided we are right now. Poet Dr. Joy Layden recently said, "There's a common sense of heartbreak that's bringing America together, but I think we can do better than that." We don't want to be brought together by a common sense of heartbreak. We need to focus on the ongoing good work of being human that's not going to change whatever happens in this election in the polls. But in order to move forward, we need this process to be just and fair.
Just and fair.
God of justice, who has created every single human being in your image, endow us with the courage and the vision to pursue democracy. Let us move forward peacefully with purpose, expecting the best out of our country's promise, and not stopping until we know that the will and the voice of every single human being has been heard. God of healing, heal our nation's soul. Give us courage. Let us face who we are at our core, all of us, the good, the bad, and the ugly part of our history. Everything, let us face it, so that we may transform ourselves into a nation that values every person living on this land. And let us do it together.
I gotta take that down. Thank you, Rabbi Diana. We have come to the end of our program, almost. Before we do anything, I want to recognize Common Defense, the veterans that came out today to be a part of this. We honor you, we thank you, we need you, and we need your voice. Thank you. I also want to thank our many partners in this event. Too many to list, but you can see them on our landing page. I want you to know that some of you came together 4 years ago, some of you came together 20 minutes ago. Here's the bottom line. We came together because that's the only way we can do what we need to do. I want you to think about how you will move through the next week, the next 2 weeks, the next month, the next 4 years, the next 20 years. Together, and our democracy requires it. It's the deal we made. It's the deal we made when we decided we wanted to be in a country that has a democracy, and we wanted to be a part of a participatory democracy. Today, you're fulfilling that promise, and I thank you. I want to take a moment to thank all of our speakers, our peacekeepers, our safety monitors, our security folks, the people that set up this area, and an amazing team of organizers, many of whom I met just for the first time, I think maybe 10 days ago. Not Marlene, I know her for a long time. So, here's the deal. This community matters. And in the end, this community, people who came together to support our democracy and defend her, this is what will make the difference. Our role is part of a story that spans generations, and we are not the end of it, but the very early part, because there's a long way to go and much to accomplish. You are here because you stand in a line of those who have fought for our democracy, for justice, and for freedom.
Together!
We have some big work to do, sustained action. As Marlene said, people are wearing these buttons. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Home for democracy. Home for counting the votes. Thank you very much. Everyone loves us today, it's amazing. So here's the deal. You see some folks wearing buttons. That's the information you need to sign the petition, and that information will then connect you to next actions. Does everybody understand that? Okay, sometimes I stand in the crowd and I go, what'd she say about the buttons? So, there's buttons, get information that you need to stay connected. Why? Because we need you connected, okay? So, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna, right now, I'm gonna ask you a question. Do you commit to showing up? Then let's do this. Marlene, my dear friend, I thank you. And let's go out and do some good work, everybody.